Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, my colleagues. This is a country report from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are presenting this report under the sub-themes of economic situation, the political situation, security, health, as well as our compliance with the regional text. Economic situation. The Nigerian economic situation between January and November was marked by moderate but fragile improvements amidst persistent structural challenges. The economy navigated a period of fiscal reforms. There were efforts at exchange rate stabilization and ongoing attempts to revive the productivity across sectors. Although some indicators have shown resilience, households and businesses have continued to feel the impact of inflation, high operating costs, and insecurity. Economic activities have moved unevenly across sectors, shaped by global commodity trends, domestic policy reforms, and fluctuations in the investment climate. Inflation has remained a dominant macroeconomic concern throughout the period. Headline inflation moderated slightly during the second and third quarters due to proactive monetary tightening by the Central Bank of Nigeria. There were improvements in agricultural supply, stabilization in forex markets. Despite these moderations, food inflation has remained very high, maintaining pressure on household welfare. There's rising costs of transportation due to high energy prices. Supply chain disruptions also contributed to elevated cost of living. The foreign exchange market has experienced relative stabilization compared to the volatility of the preceding years. The government's commitment to a more transparent and market-reflective exchange rate regime helped reduce arbitrage opportunities and restore some investor confidence. Foreign exchange liquidity improved through oil receipts, diaspora remittances, and limited capital inflows. The oil and gas sector recorded cautious recovery during the period. Production volumes have improved marginally as government intensifies security efforts within the Niger Delta region. It also strengthened regulation with the PIA coming into effect. Non-oil sector growth. The non-oil sector continued to drive the bulk of economic activity. ICT and digital services grew strongly, supporting fintech expansion, e-commerce, and telecommunication infrastructure. Agriculture showed mixed outcome. Favorable harvests in some regions contrasted with losses due to flooding, climate variability, and security challenges in farming communities. Manufacturing remained subdued, constrained by high energy costs, limited credit access, and infrastructure deficit. The service sector, including transportation, entertainment, hospitality, and retail, experienced steady growth as urban consumption gradually recovered. Fiscal conditions remained tight as the government endeavored to strengthen revenue mobilization, reduce leakages, and rationalize expenditure. Investment, climate, and private sector activity. Investor confidence improved gradually but remains cautious. Reforms aimed at enhancing ease of doing business, promoting regulatory clarity, and addressing forex bottlenecks supported modest improvement in the business environment. Nigeria's trade performance improved slightly, supported by favorable oil prices and increasing agricultural exports. Implementation of regional trade agreements, including the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, and continued preparations for the African Continental Free Trade Area connects Nigeria more deeply with regional and global markets. It's also strengthening cross-border trade prospects, utilizing veritable windows that legitimize free movement of persons, goods, and services within the sub-region. Underemployment has, however, remained increased, particularly among youth and women. Sectors such as ICT, services, and entertainment created new forms of work. Yet, job creation has lagged behind population growth. Many Nigerians relied on informal, precarious jobs, reflecting structural weaknesses in labor productivity and manufacturing. Social and welfare situation. Nigerian social welfare situation between January and November reflected a combination of resilience among citizens and ongoing pressures resulting from economic challenges, insecurity, and social services deficits. Despite government reforms in health, education, and social protection and community development, the lived realities of many households remain difficult due to high inflation, limited income growth, and disruption in key social sectors. Several federal and state programs offer relief, but the scale of vulnerability continued to manifest. The socio-economic challenges associated with insecurity, inflation, and high costs of living subject many households to poverty and fragile living standards. Real purchasing power remained weak, particularly for wage earners and informal workers, despite slight moderation of inflation from mid-2025. The education sector is operating under pressure and safety concerns, especially in areas affected by insecurity. You have heard of a few of them in the past weeks. This challenge is addressed by new reforms, funding improvement at all levels of government, the activation of the Students' Loan Scheme, efforts to strengthen basic education through curriculum revision and supporting research, innovation and infrastructure development at basic and tertiary institutions by the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC. The healthcare system experienced persistent strain during the review period. Primary healthcare centers across the country struggle with shortage of medical personnel, essential drugs, and modern equipment. However, maternal and child health outcomes recorded marginal improvement, where targeted interventions, often supported by development partners, were implemented. Social protection programs. Social protection initiatives under the National Society Safety Net programs expanded as government and partners intensified efforts to cushion vulnerable groups. Cash transfer programs reached more households, including the elderly, persons with disability, and the urban poor. Conditional cash transfers supported enrollment in schools and attendance at health facilities, despite challenges of growing public demands, paucity of funds in coordination, and low inclusivity in outreach. Food security faced challenges across many regions due to high food prices, reduced farm productivity, climate-related disruptions, and insecurity. Housing and urbanization basic services. Nigeria's rapid urbanization continued to place pressure on housing, transport, water supply, and sanitation infrastructure. Major cities such as Lagos, Abuja, Kano, and Port Harcourt witnessed rising housing costs, expansion of slum settlements, traffic congestion, and growing hopelessness. Security and humanitarian conditions. Insecurity remained a major factor influencing welfare outcomes. While some regions recorded improvement, violent attacks by insurgents, bandits, and other armed groups continued in parts of the northeast, northwest, and north central. Displacement persisted, with thousands of families depending on humanitarian assistance, thereby stretching limited resources in host communities. Insecurity disrupted schooling, healthcare access, farming activities, and economic livelihood, deepening social vulnerability. Nigeria continued implementing the ECOWAS Protocol on Free Movement with improvements in border management, using the ECOWAS travel certificates and recognition of the ECOWAS National Biometric Identity Card in most cases. Implementation of the ECOWAS agricultural policy has progressed through national agricultural investment plans, resilience building, and food reserve interventions. Nigeria advanced initiatives on value chain development, regional seed standards, and livestock mobility frameworks. Gender and social inclusion programs. Implementation of ECOWAS gender policy and youth-related initiatives expanded, with Nigeria integrating gender responsiveness, women entrepreneurship scheme, and youth employability programs in appreciable magnitude, despite emerging challenges in addressing gender-based violence. I think the Parliament is at the verge of considering a bill to further engage in inclusion of the female folk. In conclusion, the multidimensional challenges of our time related to governance, economy, social welfare, and implementation of community texts require new and innovative measures to address. Nigeria remains committed in response to this adverse reality and re-emphasize its conviction in supporting regional cohesion to move the ECOWAS community forward forever. As we reaffirm our collective commitment to the principles and ideals of ECOWAS, let us with sincerity acknowledge that the path forward will require courage, innovation, and unwavering unity of purpose. The Federal Republic of Nigeria remains committed in solidarity with our fellow member states to reposition the West African sub-region for greater economic prosperity, political stability, and social welfare. Thank you for your kind attention.